All right, it's Wednesday, January 15th. Headed to the office. I had some morning meetings and then got to get a bunch of stuff done today, so I'm going to be super heads down. Hi, if you're new here, I talk about software engineering topics that are either submitted in comments or messages, or I go to Reddit for some topics. I had someone saying that I should spend less time giving updates on my life and just talk about the topics at hand. If that's how you feel about this content, I actually have another YouTube channel called Dev Leader, which has straight to the point, polished, edited videos that I pay money to have someone edit. So you get rid of all my ranting and rambling, and it's, I think, a lot more succinct. So check Dev Leader out if you like content like that. It's on the same topics, and then there's programming tutorials. Otherwise, this channel will basically always remain like a vlog. So if you don't like that, sorry. So the topic we're going to be going over, this came from the comments, and I think there's probably a lot of people that are like, I don't know, a lot of people are thinking about this kind of stuff over the past while, but we had a little bit of sort of a news thing with Mark Zuckerberg talking about Meta, because he was on the Joe Rogan podcast and was saying how, I needed like total disclaimer here. I've not even watched it. I've just seen like headlines, so I'm kind of like regurgitating, not a direct quote, but what I think I've inferred is that in like within 5 years, we're not going to have any like mid-level software engineers, thanks to AI. And then now there's people panicking. Like people were already panicking because the job market's tough and AI, and now Mark Zuckerberg says we don't need engineers. So people are freaking out. So I wanted to talk through this. It's going to be about 30 minutes to work. We'll see how this goes. A friendly reminder, if you want your questions answered, leave them in the comments or send a message to Dev Leader on any social media platform you want. I should be on all of them. If you find a platform that I'm not on, then let me know and I'll start posting there. And if you send me a message, you can assume it will be anonymous when I go to talk about it, so you don't have to worry about that. And yeah, let's dive into it. So first of all, I just want to say I think this statement's bullshit, and end of video. But no, seriously, I think that we have to kind of step back and look at who's talking about this stuff, right? So I don't have anything against Mark Zuckerberg. I think he's got to be an intelligent person based on his accomplishments. And I think the reality is that he's in a position where he, almost like rightfully so from the perspective of being a business person, needs to be able to talk about the things that he's intending to have his company invest in and promote, like talk about it in a way that's going to, make it sell. And that seems like a ridiculously valuable selling point, to be able to say that AI will be able to replace, up to mid-level software engineers. I just think that in practice, this is like so far from reality, at least in the current state of things. And so I wanted to talk through that, give my perspective on it. And one thing that I like to do especially if I find I have like a really strong opinion about something, like in this case, I kind of started off by saying I think it's bullshit. So I do want to make sure that I can give some time to talk about perhaps the other side, right? I don't think it's like, I try to make this apparent in all of my content. I want to be able to like talk about things from different angles. Even if I don't agree with it, I think it's actually important that we practice doing this kind of thing. And I think it's really helpful for trying to expand our perspective and look at things more conclusively. So let's say, maybe let's kick this off to start it the other way, right? So my claim is that I disagree with Zuckerberg, and I have a really bad feeling as I talk through this. If I start getting ranty, I'll probably start saying Elon by accident, so I apologize. Not because I have a hatred for Elon, just I don't know why. I think that name's just going to pop into my head. But I don't agree with Mark Zuckerberg in this case, that it will replace, the statement seems like it will replace all of the mid-level engineers. AI will. And even if that's not the exact statement, because I haven't seen or heard it firsthand, I think that's the impression that people are getting, basically, is like, there will be no software engineering jobs, right? Like, why would there be if we're about to replace all the mid-level engineers? Like, why should I even get into software engineering? So I disagree with this. But the alternative that I kind of want to start to entertain before I rant about why I disagree with it is, like, if we think about the capabilities of LLMs right now and the rate at which they're progressing, I don't like. You have to kind of maybe think about this from your own perspective. Like, are you using AI tools right now in any of your development? And I realize maybe for some people watching this, you actually haven't done any coding yet, and maybe that's why this seems so scary. Is like, I don't even code yet, and like, I thought that I wanted to be a software engineer, but it's like all doom and gloom. So, I mean, if you haven't coded, like, kind of sit back. Maybe people will chime in the comments, and they'll give some perspective. But even for me, like, I'm a software engineering manager. I don't code at work, right? But I code every day outside of work. I've been programming for over 20 years. Love to do it. And I use AI tools all the time. And the rate at which I've seen them, like, kind of help in my workflows is advancing quickly, and that's awesome. So I've made videos. Actually, my most disliked video that I put out on this channel is just me talking about, personally, the handful of situations that I like using AI tools for development, and people seem to really dislike it. Still don't know why, but anyway, I use it in my own development, and I, like, in a nutshell, am mostly using it for either what I would call, like, mundane things, like things I know how to do, but I just, like, really don't want to spend time doing. That way I can use the LLM to kind of do the work, and then I can review it and be like, yep, checks out, makes sense. And it just saved me a lot of time, right? And then the other thing is, like, probably around on the surface, like, if I don't know how to do something, like, kind of putting me in the direction. But certainly, if I didn't know anything about a topic, for me, I don't use LLMs to just, like, blindly get some result and then just, like, be like, LLM says so, let's go, which I think is a bit of a meme right now with, say, maybe more junior developers. But that's kind of how I use them, and it's been helping tremendously. But, like, I think it's a very big step forward to go from that to replacing. So what I'm wondering in the statement from Zuckerberg is if the intention is not to say, in practice, every mid-level engineer will be replaced. In practice, which implies, like, they, like, literally, whether it's Meta, maybe he was just talking about Meta, like, Meta just goes and lays off every mid-level engineer and below, because doesn't make sense. We have AI that can do it for us, right? All those roles laid off, gone. Maybe that's not the implication of what he's saying. Maybe the intention, and I don't know this, right, but just to kind of think through it, maybe the intention is to say that AI in 5 years will be good enough to be able to kind of, I don't know if I can, like, personify AI this much, but, like, to think and reason. I don't think it necessarily does that currently, but to think and reason like a mid-level engineer would, such that if you were a stakeholder talking to a mid-level engineer and said, hey, here's the problem space, here's the problem I need you to solve, that if you did that to AI versus a mid-level engineer, they would come up with similar solutions, right? If that's what we're saying, then I think within 5 years, for sure, we can achieve that. But that kind of statement is not, like, when I frame it that way, what I'm trying to not do is kind of, like, fear monger. I'm not even suggesting with that statement, therefore we replace all the mid-level engineers. Like, why would you necessarily? Because there's different, like when we're talking about this in practice, we're not talking about the what other types of overhead get introduced, right? We have so many things in place in like software organizations that help us sort of manage teams. Like I'm a manager, but in terms of organizing work, the processes that we go through, there's a lot of this stuff in place already. If we think about large companies, even the transition to try and just like eradicate this, but only up to mid-level somehow, up to and including mid-level, eradicate this, and just like now it's just LLMs, and all of a sudden we're saying that's on par or potentially better. Like, I think that that's completely infeasible, at least with this trajectory. And the thing that I kind of want to interject and say is that by the time we are able to do that, where like it actually just makes sense that we have AI that's so advanced where we could just do that, I don't think that we're like as society just concerned as software developers to say, oh no, they got rid of software development. I think that's at a point where we're saying, like, what kind of other roles do you imagine are replaced at that point? Okay, so like it's not, I think the doom and gloom around the software engineering part is so hyper specific that like I think it's just people getting completely irrational with it. So I think like when I'm kind of navigating this and I'm hearing it, like first of all I want to resist it because I'm like, it just sounds like ridiculous. So I am, just for context, right? Like I am at a principal level as an engineering manager though. So like, okay, so in this future world where, you know, 5 years from now, AI has replaced the mid-levels, I'm still employed, right? Great, cool. But like, what does that look like? And the reality is that in a situation like that, because we're talking about in practice this happening, how would I realistically start just replacing humans with AI up to a certain level to go do the work that needs to get done? And I just think that in practice, when we talk about this from the perspective of like, okay, if you're up to level whatever, you're now just gone, now we just put AI there. Like, what does that even mean? Like, I think in practice, there's something missing there when we try to say that, because it's easy to say the words out loud, but like, what does it mean in practice? And I think that, like, as someone who has been running software engineering teams for like over 12 years, if someone said to me in leadership, hey, we're going to start replacing people with AI, I would have a lot of questions about like, how do you expect that to work in practice? Okay, so let's use an example. I have a team of 6 people and 2 of them are junior. So we say, okay, it's time. We lay off the juniors, and then what happens? So the AI replaces them. But what does that mean in practice? We basically go to a server, we run 2 AI agents, and now the rest of the team and I just talk to the AI agents like they were mid-level engineers and tell them to start coding things. And then we start doing that for a bit, and then the AI becomes advanced enough, and I say, okay, like, you know, leadership says AI is good enough to replace the mid-level, so then, you know, on that team, I now go lay off another 2 people that were mid-level. So I only got a couple senior, I can't remember how many people I said on the team. So I got 1 or 2 people left on the team that are senior, and they now talk to a total of 4 AI agents. And then do we just continue this pattern until it's just AI agents essentially operating the software engineering organization? Because at what point do we not need the managers? Do we not need any of the other supporting roles, like the directors? Like, where do you stop? And this is sort of the meta point that I wanted to get across, is that By the time it's able to do that kind of shit, you could make the argument you don't need any of the roles. I think that when we talk about this stuff, in theory, on paper, it's so easy to say, but in practice, it's not that straightforward to go implement. Like, my take is, if we expected that kind of thing to happen, in like 5 years from now, we don't have mid-level engineers. I think you would have to start on that in like these big organizations. I think you would have to start that transition already. You would already have the plan to start phasing people out, and some people are going to be listening to this and say, but they are doing that. They are. You see the layoffs and stuff happening. And then the conspiracies start. Like, the challenge with talking about this kind of stuff is like, if you already believe a certain thing, you won't even be receptive to what I'm saying. And I'm not going to sit here and try to convince you otherwise. Like, if you already believe that this is the way that AI is going to replace all the software engineers, and that means, because here's the other thing, the consequence of that is that every software engineer will have no job. I think that's a key point too. If that's what you already believe, like, I'm not going to sit here and try to convince you otherwise. You're right. It's cool. My video's wrong. You can give it a thumbs down. You can move on. Great. But to go back to what I said, I think Zuckerberg's in a position where he needs to be able to take a strong stance on this because he's a business person. So I can understand that. I don't agree with it. But to try and blend some of the things that I was saying back at the beginning is like, maybe it's not a matter of directly replacing software engineers. Maybe it means that we're able to scale up software engineering teams by, and I don't know if his claim was AI agents or whatever else, but by leveraging AI. And in that case, I absolutely agree. Because I absolutely agree, or believe at least, I'm assuming that Zuckerberg agrees with this, but I don't know. But my belief is that that we can enhance ourselves as software developers doing this. It will fundamentally change how we develop software, because it already is. And I know there are people that like to they want to dismiss this, and they say, well, it doesn't for me. Like, basically, based on my experience, it doesn't for me, therefore it doesn't for anyone else. But it's kind of like a shitty argument. It's not real. And even to go back on what I said, hey, it does change it for me, therefore it will change it for everyone else. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying it changes it for everyone else. The point is that if it has the ability to, and then we look at statistically, is it over time, and this is something we would have to measure, is it changing how people develop software? I'm quite confident the answer will be yes, it does. And then as a result, the role of a software engineer changes. I think that we will be spending less time on some of the intricate details of things. It's not that those things don't become important, because when they do come up, you're really going to have to know your shit. But I think we'll spend less time day to day doing that kind of stuff, because we will have AI tools that can do it. So things like mundane tasks will start to be becoming less and less. We'll have more ability to aggregate data and sort of do a high level understanding of it. That'll become more and more common. And honestly, I think the role of software engineers will become a lot more, arguably, almost like a, I don't know if I can call it a product architect. I'm just kind of making stuff up right now, but we will have to do a really good job of understanding requirements of a product, because we will need to be able to relay this to AI, because we'll be using the tools more and more and more. But also, when things inevitably aren't perfect, because guess what, even today they're not perfect, we need to dive into the really nitty-gritty details, debug things, diagnose things, and have some way to uncover the information. So Whereas right now, what might happen, depending on your level, someone will say, hey, here's a user story, or however you want to split up your work, right? Here's some work you have to go do, and you look at it and you're like, I need to understand the requirements. Okay, I'm going to have to go code, I'm just making this up again, this CRUD API that's going to, I need to be able to interact with the database. And so you go do it. And like some of those things, like you may not have to do anymore. But that doesn't mean that like you're just out of a job. It just means that your time has to be focused on more complex things. Or different, like, maybe we can say like higher level thinking of things. And I feel like that's probably a good thing. I don't know if people just love building like CRUD APIs and like really simple things. I certainly don't. If I could just have it done, I would. And then I can, again, like, I love building stuff, but there's a lot of repetitive, mundane things. That's why we have levels of abstraction in software engineering, right? It's to make it so that we don't have the cognitive load of having to go do all these things all the time. So my take on this is that it's in 5 years, we will absolutely have software engineers of all levels. In 5 years, the role of a software engineer will look different. The way that we develop software will look different. The skill sets that you need to focus on as a software engineer will look different. And I don't think that they're going to happen overnight. Okay, so when people are fearful of like, well, maybe I shouldn't become a software engineer, like if you want to remain fearful, just do this thought experiment. Go pick something else. Pick any other career choice that you want for fun. Okay? And now go ask yourself how AI is going to replace that. And then people are going to get to the point where they're saying, well, like, okay, well, it must be something like manual, like some type of physical labor. I don't know. Have you seen the robots they're coming out with? You're telling me that that's not going to replace jobs? So if you just want, like, if you enjoy being afraid, there's plenty of options to go be afraid. So in my opinion, if you're like, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to take a step forward, like, you can either literally do nothing and just stay afraid of everything. Because if you want to be afraid about software engineering jobs, go be afraid about accountants, go be afraid about lawyers, go be afraid of like doctors, right? We'll get some high precision robots with AI. We're set. We don't need doctors. So go be afraid about anything. That's cool. I just don't think that that's like helpful or productive or going to move you forward. This Tesla's really got to make up his mind. Unreal. Elon. See, I said I was going to bring up Elon. So again, like, I'm not trying to totally be an asshole here, but I think that I can understand if you're very new to the industry that you would just be very afraid of these things because of how it's marketed to you. Zuckerberg says it, right? Like, that's what's going to happen. I'm just a dude in a car. But I do run software engineering teams, right? So now, I was thinking about this ahead of time, and I didn't want to forget it. I suspect there will be people that watch this and say, okay, well, you're saying it's in Zuckerberg's best interest to talk about it. Aren't you just doing the same thing? You run software engineering teams. Won't you be out of a job? And like, even, this is how, like, I'm not afraid, like, the no fear part on this, like, let's even assume that I was. Let's pretend it's real, okay? And because there are no engineers, we don't need engineering managers, okay? And I lose my job as a result of it within 5 years. I still build software. So I believe I already have a set of skills. I'm already working on other things. I'm not afraid of just not being able to survive. I also sell courses for software engineers and how to program. And if no one needed those because, we don't need software engineers, there goes my income, right? Like, oh no, I will find other ways. Like, I'm not concerned. So if you're concerned, like if your perspective is that I'm just trying to sell you the opposite story of Zuckerberg because, I don't know, I'm trying to protect my own career, or because I have other vested interest in trying to sell you things, like, literally, if you don't want to become a software engineer, it has absolutely no effect on my career, or my trajectory in the places I want to go. So I say that seriously, right? Like, it doesn't affect me. However, I just wanted to give you some perspective, because I think that if you see all of the fear going around, like, someone at the ground level, if someone came to me and said, you got to start replacing your team with AI, I would be like, okay, well, you better expect that we're going to take an absurd productivity hit over the next however long. And they're probably going to be like, well, why? That doesn't make sense. They said the AI was at the level of mid-level engineers. And I'm going to say, yeah, and you got lied to. So it's not a drop-in replacement. So until we have some path forward on that, and is it going to take 5 years? I don't know. I doubt it. And even if we do, I think the replacement of the engineers is probably where I have the biggest disagreement. Because could you not say, hey, you can just replace the junior engineers? You can replace 2 junior engineers with a senior engineer. Why didn't we do that? You can replace 2 senior engineers with 1 principal engineer. Why didn't we do that? That probably would have saved money, wouldn't it? Why didn't we do it? So I don't think it works like that in practice. So if you're listening and you want to keep an open mind, I would say try not to let the fear totally overwhelm you. I'm of the mindset that we will continue to need software engineers. I'm of the mindset that software engineering will evolve. I think it's exciting times ahead. I'm very curious to see how things go. If I'm completely wrong about this, if I'm still making videos, then I'm happy to kind of go back and reflect on this, but I cannot comprehend how in 5 years we would eliminate jobs. Completely eliminate the mid-level software engineer and below. And again, maybe because I didn't look up exactly what Zuckerberg said, maybe that's not exactly what he said. But that's at least the sentiment I'm getting when people are asking about this. Why should I become a software engineer if software engineers simply won't exist? So, hope that helps. I'm kind of thinking I'm going to have... I suspect that if YouTube actually promotes this in the algorithm, because unfortunately I'm at the mercy of whatever it wants to do, but I suspect if it does, this will probably be a heavily disliked video as well. It's kind of interesting. I don't know why. It's like probably polarizing for people, maybe. And what I've noticed on videos is like I said, I'm trying to give you both sides to this, right? I don't think it will completely eliminate roles. I think it will change them. And I think that when people are watching a topic that's polarizing, they're going to have a very strong opinion too, most likely. And even if I sit in the middle or try to give you both sides, if I don't agree with you, people are like, no, like, I hate this, dislike, which is fine. As long as you watched it, I got the watch time, right? I'm just kidding. But if you disagree with it, I'd love to hear from you in the comments, right? Because I actually am open to hearing other perspectives. The kind of thing I'm not open to is when people are just a total asshat out of the gate. Like, if you come out swinging, like insulting me, then it's not going to be fun for anyone. But if you disagree and you want to share your perspective, I would love to hear about it. I don't have to agree with you, and you don't have to agree with me, and that's okay. As long as you acknowledge that C# is the best programming language that's ever been created in the history of the universe. Man, there's no good parking spots. Oh, sucks. No matter what, I have to risk getting a door ding. I don't trust anyone in this parking garage. No offense, but the parking is like, I don't even want to park here. I have to drive around a little longer. Oh, throwing everything off. You got to hang out with me a little longer. It's probably a good opportunity to plug some stuff if you watch all the way to the end. So my main channel, Dev Leader, has a live stream that is Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific, and it's on similar topics. Look at, like, you can't see. Can you see the lines? I don't know. Probably not. There was like 3 cars that were just not inside any lines. Okay, so I gotta park in this stupid spot. Whatever. Not happy. They're all compact spaces, and the car's long, so that's not an issue, but it's a coupe. So the doors are really long, and if I have to open them, it sucks. And then, like I said, I don't trust anyone in this parking garage, so parking near other people sucks. Anyway, software engineering, AI, don't be scared. I'll see you later. Thanks.